Welcome to the Restoration Conversation with host Robin Crusoe. Here is Robin Crusoe.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the Restoration Conversation, enlightening you with news of the past. I'm your host, Robin Crusoe. Today we will be talking to different historical figures about the Restoration era, when people began believing that all occurrences somehow were punishments or rewards for their actions. Our first guest today is going to be King Charles II. So, Your Majesty, welcome back.
Robin, it's good to be back.
Alright, so tell me, Your Majesty, what have you been doing since you returned to the throne?
Yeah, well, I've just been reigning in the good times, you know, the women and the booze and the theater and all that. Yeah, in short, the good times they're back. I've been sprinkling in a little bit of religious tolerance, but...
Well, I sure am happy to hear that. Alright, so Your Majesty, do you mind explaining briefly to everyone why your re-entrance into the throne in 1660 was the beginning of the Restoration era?
Well, Robin, the answer is sitting right here in front of you. I've been restored to the throne that was rightfully mine after being exiled.
I see. But if you don't mind me asking, why were you exiled in the first place?
I should behead you for asking a question like that. Oh, Robin, I'm just kidding with you. Yeah, after Cromwell killed my father, I knew I'd be next. It was the time of the Commonwealth when the monarchy was abolished by Cromwell, and I knew I had to flee to keep my head.
Righty then. Well, thank you, King Charles, for joining us today. Our next guest is going to be the man with the most detailed account of the London Fire, Samuel.
Well, hello there. Thank you for having me.
So, Mr. Pepys, tell us about some of the important events that you wrote about in your diary.
It was said that I had one of the most detailed accounts of the London Fire, and I had a super secret diary that got out somehow. And I also was one of the few Englishmen that brought King Charles II back from exile, and then I got to see his coronation afterwards.
Oh, that's wonderful. But you did mention something I found kind of interesting. You said your diary was super secret. How did it get published, and how do you feel that your diary has changed history?
Well, actually, I would be lying if I told you that I wanted this to happen. I actually wrote many parts of my diary in this super secret language that I made up. But eventually, towards the end of my life, I decided to bequeath it to Cambridge University. And a lot of people thought because of that I wanted it published. But I never really did. But I'm happy that I did because, historians are very happy with me. And I also don't really care if my secrets get out. I'm dead anyway.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pepys, for giving us some insight into your historical importance. Next, we will be joined by the author of The Plague Year, Daniel Defoe. Welcome, sir.
Hey there, Robin. Good to see you.
All right, so Mr. Defoe, you wrote all this information about the Black Plague, and you kind of look like you have it too, but people are angry at you. Can you tell us why?
Well, Robin, people are angry at the fact that the novel isn't entirely true. It's a fictionalized account of a man's experience in 1665. See, the thing is, in 1665, I was only 5 years old. The novel wasn't published until much later.
Yeah, I guess I can understand people being upset about the whole, credibility of the novel, but nonetheless, it's important that you wrote it.
Apparently, in my accurate accounts of the story, I used too many details and not enough emotions. Kind of like that Pepys guy, who wrote all compassionate and not too many details, but I think details is better.
So my next question, why are you so important to the Restoration?
Well, Robin, it's probably for my journal writing. I was the first to really popularized journal writing, and it's much different from a diary because journals actually get published. Now, people thought that my journal writing was too crude or villainous, but as was most journal writing at the time, people need to understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Defoe, for your charming insight. I am sure everyone is thankful for your contribution to history. Our final guest on tonight's segment will be Mr. Jonathan Swift, a man known for his searing wit and satirical commentary. Welcome.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
So, what is your famous work, sir?
Oh yeah, my most famous work I would say is A Modest Proposal, which is basically a satirical work about making sure that the children of poor people weren't a burden on their parents or society by selling these children as food to other people.
Oh my, that's quite morbid. At least you said satirical. So what ideas did you satirize in your work?
Yeah, the three main ideas I satirized were of corruption, ignorance, and hypocrisy. And I was basically just mocking people's ability to create these completely illogical solutions to problems just because it was the easy way out. When in the actual writing, I proposed logical ideas that were a little harder to do but made way more sense.
Well, that is quite fascinating. But just to be sure, you don't actually consume children, right?
Oh no, of course not. What?
Okay then, and with that, it's time to say goodnight. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Restoration Conversation.